Hey, Michael. What are you thinking about right now?
It's rainy today, and Sarah, you know what's really horrible in the rain?
What's that?
Sperry's. As you know, Sperry's are seafaring clothing and accessories for your adventurous lifestyle. We're falling on the sidewalk as you come in. For more, visit Sperry.com.
Welcome to Splain Yourself, everybody, the podcast that gives regular people a chance to explain their actions or beliefs. I'm Sarah, trying to keep my ditty bread dry today.
And I'm Michael. I'm protecting my neck. We have with us today a student guest, Effie Ludke. Welcome, Effie.
Hey, thanks. I'm excited to be here.
So, Effie, you're here to talk about your passion for theater and the impact it's had on your life so far, kind of how it intertwines with the human experience, which we're very excited about. But first, Effie, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm a sophomore in high school, and I've lived in Greenville for all of my life, born and raised. And when I left middle school and started high school, I joined the Fine Arts Center. I had to audition, and despite my parents' original beliefs, I actually got in.
Nice.
And so I've been studying there for theater for 2 years, and then next year I will attend the governor's school.
Okay, were mom and dad hating?
I don't think they felt that I had enough experience, but I guess I worked hard enough and made it in.
Okay. Nice. Take that, Mom and Dad.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Okay, so for those who are not familiar with the Governor's School and the Fine Arts Center, can you explain a little bit about what they do?
Well, the Fine Arts Center is a school where you can go for part of your academic day, and you study in your form of art. And so there are different departments like visual arts, music, creative writing, voice, and theater, which I'm a part of.
Okay.
Nice.
Do they do Wing Together podcasts?
We'll have to see about that.
Maybe we could start that.
Right.
This is another career path for Michael and I. So talk about what led you to even want to apply to the Fine Arts Center for theater.
Well, I had always seen movies, and I always have had a love for film, and eventually I watched one movie, and I realized that I pointed at the screen, and I remember thinking, I have to do that when I'm older. I have to be like them. I want to be able to understand how they do that.
Do you remember what movie it was?
Funny enough, it was Les Miserables.
Nice! Very cool.
Okay, so that is I've never seen Les Miserables, but I think that is a movie adaptation of a play.
Yes. Of a musical, yeah.
And what was it about Les Miserables that drew you specifically? Like, you have to be like them. Why not Top Gun?
Well, I don't really cry a whole lot in public, but I remember sobbing my eyes out at that movie, and it's a very sad story.
It's got a lot of feels. Yeah, for sure.
I was sobbing my eyes out, and I was like, okay, I have to do this.
Wow.
I want to have that power to make people laugh or cry.
Yeah, I totally get that. I remember seeing that movie in the theater, and it was just me and my sister and like one other couple, and the guy was open mouth chewing his popcorn like right behind us the whole entire time. He got a few dirty looks. That's not a movie you want to like listen to somebody chewing popcorn in, you know?
Absolutely,
like no movie is. But I totally am with you. That movie evokes a lot. So okay, so that got you thinking about maybe doing this as a career, and then how'd you find out about Fine Arts Center and their stuff?
I grew up with a girl a few blocks down, and she went to the Fine Arts Center, and my parents were telling me about how successful she is in the arts and stuff, and how she was so advanced for her grade, and she skipped a grade, and she was telling me about the Fine Arts Center and what she gets to do there.
Yeah.
And as I was entering high school, I decided, I want to take a few less academic classes, sure.
Yeah,
and there
absolutely.
I was.
And when you applied for the Fine Arts Center, had you ever had any theatrical training?
I had been in like a really bad drama club in my middle school that only met like once a month, and we didn't really do much in it. And other than that, I didn't really have much.
Nice. So describe your experience at the Fine Arts Center. What's a typical day there like for you?
Well, it really depends on the time of year. Currently, right now, we are in production for our spring showcase. And so my class, which the morning class is split up into 2 years, since it's my second year being in that class, I'm doing scenes from Shakespeare's Twelfth Night.
Ooh, nice.
So we're getting to put that together. We're directing it as a group and starring in it and doing everything from costume design to figuring out lighting and sound design. So.
Wow. That's awesome. So are you just into the acting portion, or are you also into some of the behind-the-scenes things, too?
Costume design has always been really interesting to me because there's so many different ways that you can work with it through symbolism and like use of color and everything like that.
Wow.
It gives you so much power.
Okay.
But I'm mainly into the acting.
Okay.
Okay, I think that brings us to what we really want to probe you on here. Do you think that acting, and specifically the theater, really relates to the human experience? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. We work a lot with Chekhov at the Fine Arts Center, and a lot of his philosophy is, and as well as Stanislavski, a lot of his philosophy is that theater is used to portray the human experience to other people. So I like to work a lot with classical works, so like Shakespeare and stuff like that. And I think you can tie it into modern day and have people who might not fully understand the language and might not have as good of a grasp with that through the use of the human experience, that we all can understand unrequited love, and we can all understand the loss of somebody in deep woe, and it's really a universal feeling that you can portray.
Yeah, that is really interesting. Do you think theater is more effective at conveying these sort of parts of the human experience that are universal than, say, television or radio or the movies?
Or books?
I think theater, personally for me, I think theater can be a little bit more touching. I think film can get close to there, but with television, I don't think it goes as deep. But with live theater, you're right there and you're right next to somebody, and you have to look them in the face. And you have to be with them in that moment, and you can't press pause on it, and you can't get up to get more popcorn. You're sitting there, and you have to face the discomfort of the situation.
Wow. That's a good point.
So you think theater is more intimate?
Absolutely, yeah.
That's really interesting. Do you think it is more intimate for the actors or the participants or the audience members?
I think it can be more intimate for all of them, but especially for the actors, when you're not just staring at a camera or having to work through things like CGI or green screens and stuff like that. When it's really all there, I think it's definitely more intimate.
Okay, that's really, really interesting.
I'm thinking about, so I have had conversations with friends and acquaintances about why they go to things like film, and you could include theater, I think, but why do we go and why do we sit and watch this stuff? And I hear some people say they do it as an escape, so they want it to be as different from their own life as is possible, like fantasy or, something with a definite happy ending so that it like takes them out of their own misery. But then other people really want to see themselves on stage, and they want to go through the emotions that you were talking about earlier. What's your thought on that? Is theater for you? Do you want it to be an escape for people, or do you want it to be like, here's the mirror, look at yourself?
For me personally, as an actor, I like feeling that bit of escape where I can act outside of my circumstance. Where if I'm not that loud, I can play a total out loud diva on stage.
Yeah.
Or I can play somebody. I don't know, I can play a masculine character.
Sure.
And I can play somebody very different from myself and understand other people more.
Right.
But I think that as an audience, I think I'd want them to think that they're escaping.
Right.
And then also understand
Trick
the
'em.
fact that they,
Yes.
Also understand the fact that their escape still ties in what they're
Yes.
dealing with in their life.
I love that.
So you think there is a duality. First, it's an escape.
Absolutely.
Right, but then there is kind of back into this universal human experience.
Yeah, in every fantasy land, there are still downfalls.
Absolutely.
Okay, that is really interesting. The thing that's always been interesting to me about the theater is like, so William Shakespeare, I can't remember when he lived, but it wasn't recently.
A few years
Was it
back,
like
I guess.
1600s?
Yeah, he lived, I don't know, England or something.
Somewhere there, over there, on that continent.
You would think that, he lived in a much different time and much different era, and he spoke the same language, except for much differently than we do. There would be nothing worthwhile from him, except for his plays still seem to be immensely popular 400 years later.
Right.
How in the world does he do that?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I think a lot of people get scared by the language because it's such heightened language. But something important to remember is that back then it was still heightened language. That nobody really spoke like that back then. And although these are such old circumstances, when you apply them to modern times, they are just as relatable. We still go through times of war and famine and distrust and love and loss.
Sure. And Shakespeare is making up a lot of those words. I read that he made up the word assassination.
Really?
It wasn't...
Really? I didn't know that.
It was not a thing before he came up with it.
Wow.
So that even makes the language that much more challenging.
I guess every word is made up when you think about it, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Old Bill made up quite a bunch of them. What I read. So I dig what you're saying, but here is my big question to this. So... I would not pretend to be a connoisseur of the theater by any stretch of imagination. but the woman whom I relate to marriage enjoys the good theater once a quarter, maybe.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, all right, dig it, like we're gonna go in there, and then they start singing. And then I'm like, hey, what's going on here? Right? Because if this is going to be an escape, I get it, right? It's like going to a concert. But nowhere in my day-to-day do people break into song.
Right.
So why is this such a popular, I guess you call it musicals, why are musicals so popular, and what are the songs meant to express that I'm missing out on?
I think musicals share a lot in common with classical texts like Shakespeare because it's so heightened that they sing. It's they feel it so deeply that they can't help but sing and break out into song and express their feelings in a deeper way than just words could express.
So you think that singing is
It's a modern heightened language in a way.
Okay.
That's interesting. Well, and I'm thinking now back to Les Mis when we saw it in the theater and how for a couple of those performances, I mean, all of the performances you could tell the emotion was coming through, but specifically a couple of those numbers when the actors were like literally weeping while they were singing, I mean, it was really raw. And you're right, I can't imagine them delivering those lines as spoken words because the music kind of tied in with the emotion. Interesting.
Does it help you as an actress to be emotional?
Well, we try to disconnect feelings from actions, and so you really let your actions and your tactics in the scene drive what you're doing, and you don't really think about the emotions as much because that's more of a byproduct, because anybody can say, I am sad now, and then put a frown on their face, but you don't really feel sad, you don't really understand that feeling, whereas if you give yourself an objective and a tactic to how you're going to get there, then it can drive you and emotions will come with it.
Okay.
So what is my tactic to being sad then?
Yeah, give us an example.
Well, it really depends on the scene. Like, for instance, in the show that I'm doing scenes from right now, 12th Night, my character's objective is to get this one character to fall in love with her. And so my tactic is either to seduce or to manipulate. And so when I fail, the emotions are a byproduct of my failure or my success.
Okay.
Interesting. And the audience can read this because they've all failed at seduction or succeeded at seduction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, felt that embarrassment
Or shot somebody down.
In
the middle of.
I can certainly relate to failing. I know that feeling well.
Hey, it worked at least once for you.
That's right. That's all I got though.
That's all you need, man.
Yeah, it was like 1 for 400. I don't know whatever percentage it is.
But you got the best one.
I did.
Out of those 400.
I got the shot when it counted. Yes. No, I can completely relate to that. Theater looks difficult to me. Can you talk a little bit about the kind of day-to-day practice and schedule and routines of this and how you're able to deal with it? Most high school kids can't deal with the rigors of something that requires like repetition and practice and
scheduling, organization,
is not on Twitter.
Yeah.
It's definitely a whole lot to work on, and being at the Fine Arts Center helps me a whole lot because I know that there are at least like 1.5 hours through the day that I can really focus on my craft. And after school, I mean, it's a very important part of every actor's journey is to, of course, find the job in the first place.
Sure.
So,
yes.
Monologues for auditions, like you have to work a whole lot
at
that to be able to present yourself well and understand what you're trying to present. And then once you get cast in something, then the work begins at rehearsal. And a lot of it really depends on knowing what you want, who you are, and how other people see you.
So explain those, what you want, who you are, and how other people see you, because it could be three completely separate things. Like, I think I look like Brad Pitt. But maybe other people don't see that. I don't know. What is the difference between those three?
Well, for what you want, I'd say that what I want is I want to work primarily with classical text. So I look at more shows to go out for with classical text. So I look at Shakespeare shows and Greek plays, and then who I am, I look at what I'm good at, and then what skills I can apply that to in my work, and then for how other people see me, I look at what my type is. And so I would never be cast as a king or anything like that.
I see.
It's more.
Sure.
Those are the roles you can reasonably play.
Yeah, reasonably.
Okay, so no NBA player?
Maybe.
Okay, good.
Put me on stilts.
Yeah. And along that, you talked about memorizing a monologue, how do you, I mean, those are really long. Do you have tricks for, like, memorizing 70 or 80 lines? It seems like impossible.
It is definitely hard to get at, but for me personally, when I have a time constraint, then that really motivates me. Stress is a big motivator. And so if I have something that I really, really want to go out for, then I will sit down with the text, and a lot of the time I like to go backwards.
Ooh.
First, like, dissecting the text
yeah.
is really important to understand what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
You can break it up into beats of when you change tactics or
Huh.
when your situation changes, and then you can go backwards from that and start at the end and understand where you end up,
Where you're
and then
going for it,
understand
yeah.
the beginning of your journey.
Oh, wow.
So you kind of reverse engineer it.
Yeah, absolutely. Understanding what you're going to say really helps you to understand, to say it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's applicable in so many different areas of life, I think.
And if you understand what you are trying to get to, it's not that big of a deal if then you go a little bit off script during the audition, or do they expect you to have everything completely memorized line for line?
Well, there's something called DLP, which is dead letter perfect, which you are always expected to be.
Okay.
Every bit of punctuation should be dead letter perfect, so you should know it by then. But if you do slip up a little bit and go off script, as long as you keep the story, I don't think it would be as bad.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Huh.
Well, and in an audition, I'm sure that the mentality from the director's point of view is, like, if we're not DLP during this audition, that's not as important as having the feel of the character, right? Like, we can always get DLP later, right?
I mean, I think it definitely matters more on your performance if you took them
Sure.
away enough for them to not notice.
Gotcha. I see what you're saying. And so in that vein of talking about directors, I'm sure that there's always interesting things happening there. So how many different directors have you worked with so far?
Gosh, that's a hard number to come up with. There's so many people that...
More than 10.
About 10.
Okay.
Probably 10's a fair number.
And so they all have their own little personalities and quirks and things.
Absolutely.
Tell me about that.
You have to figure out how to work with each one individually. Of if they're a teacher as well to you and are helping you to direct it, you know a little bit better about what they want and what they're looking for.
Sure.
But you also have to trust your artistic instincts.
Right.
And so you have to understand what they're saying and then either explain yourself.
There you go.
Yeah,
Look at that.
Name drop there.
Shout out.
She woved it in.
Or at least try what they're suggesting.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And that's what I'm curious about, because I've heard actors talk about this and directors talk about this weird dynamic where actors want to trust directors, but there's also they have a skill too. So it's not just the director that's bringing their skill to the mix. It's like everyone here is a talented professional. So how do we bring all of that talent together without causing explosions?
Absolutely.
Right.
And how is the theater scene here in Greenville? Are there a lot of opportunities to participate in the theater outside of the Governor's School and the Fine Arts Center, or are they? Is it something you find difficult to find places to audition?
It's actually really, really easy to find places to audition.
Oh.
The Warehouse Theater, there's like Center Stage,
Yeah.
the Children's Theater even. There are so many different theaters in town. They all have something different that they do. So some focus on musicals that are like something to take the whole family to.
Yeah.
Or the Warehouse Theater does more edgy stuff. They do
Okay.
classical stuff, and they do stuff that pushes the envelope a little bit.
Okay.
So
Very cool.
And so the Warehouse Theater sounds like a good place for you.
yeah, that's definitely where I would love to work.
Have you have you gone over there and said, like, hey, I'm Effie, what are you guys doing?
I actually have talked to the artistic director.
Uh-huh.
And I was going to work crew for their show that they're doing right now, which is Much Ado About Nothing.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, which,
I like that one.
Yeah, I ended up not being able to do that, but I'm really excited to go see it. I've
Yeah.
heard a lot of good things about it.
Very cool.
Okay. And is there, like, a actor or actress that you model yourself after? Like, or you take little parts from every 3 or 4 people to sort of explain how you do things?
Yeah, role models.
Gosh, my biggest theatrical role model is definitely Keira Knightley.
Nice.
She is a huge, huge deal, and she works so much with period dramas, which I absolutely love.
She does
And
do
then-
a lot of
Yeah, and classical text, and I just really adore her.
Okay, and let's just say you didn't know who Keira Knightley was. What makes her someone you adore so much?
I tend to like a lot of the genres that she's in, but she does so many different things, and every character that she has the same amount of show-stopping quality, where there's something about her that even if she's in the background, you can't help but look at her.
Right.
She's very magnetic.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay. So off the stage, then, how has theater helped you to understand your world, right? As a teenager, you kind of live in a sometimes rocky existence, or people are unpredictable. Some of you have crazy hormones. Some of you are just plain crazy. What has this taught you about life, right? If this is a metaphor for the human experience, then what has this taught you?
I really like looking at when I'm in an argument with somebody or have a misunderstanding, I really look at what their objectives and what their tactics are. So just like in a scene, everybody is trying to get something out of somebody else. And so if you can understand that and work together and understand that whether your goals work together or not can help you a lot with navigating people.
So it taught you to fight fairly.
Absolutely.
This is what we call it around my way, right? And the idea is that, hey, we're going to argue, right? But it should not end up with a name-calling session, and then the original problem remains unresolved, right? Because now my feelings are hurt.
Right.
Instead, what it should be is an opportunity, regardless of how unpleasant it is, to come together to work on this problem, which if you're arguing, probably both of you are responsible for at some level.
Right.
And create sort of a new way of doing things or a new step in your relationship. So you think that the theater is responsible for that kind of...
Absolutely. Words definitely have power. And
Sure.
I think through my work with classical text, that's definitely taught me that. Through everything with rhythm, that they take care in the writers to put that in, and I think in everyday life you can apply that with every small thing that you say affects somebody on a grand level.
And what I heard you say earlier too was it's about kind of being able to put yourself in somebody's perspective, like see things through their eyes, so that empathy piece, which, I mean, every argument would be, I guess, an easier one to have if both parties were trying to be empathetic, right? And that's usually what's at the heart of the conflict, is that we don't see it from the other person's side. I would imagine that acting gives you more of an edge in that area, just being able to kind of, like, the more different types of characters you play, the better you are to kind of see how other people are thinking or feeling about something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's really easy to get a better read on people when you have that understanding.
So this makes you better in relationships going forward. What other skills do you think you have learned from the theater, then?
I think I've learned that a lot about body language as well.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like in our everyday lives, people use about like 2% of their body. But I feel like with theater, I get to use like 100%, or at
Nice.
least I try to.
Right.
And your energy can tell so much about you. You know, radiation is something that we talk about so much.
Radiation.
Yeah.
What's that in the theater world?
Well, radiation is an energy that you give off. And in stillness, even, you can radiate a certain feeling or emotion or a certain vibe. Almost.
Yeah.
It's definitely a vibe that you give off.
Okay.
And is this through like facial expressions, or just even sitting completely still you can determine somebody's energy?
Even through sitting completely still, you can 100% radiate something. Yeah. Thought and focus and intention are huge with that.
Huh. So this is kind of a micro-analysis of people's behavior. That's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess that would make sense if you're going to act, that you would be very cued into these little things.
Like, she could probably come to one of our pro meetings and then tell us, like, how all of us are feeling about what's going on.
Yeah.
Don't do that, by the way. That'd be scary
All right.
for some of us.
Right. And I try and lay mine out on my sleeve. It's
There you go.
it's the snoring that gives it away. Very good. Do you plan to study theater in college? And is this a thing that it's a thing that colleges do? Where do you go to study really top-notch theater?
I mean, the most popular one would probably be like NYU.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, places like that. That's not really where I'm planning on going. I'm still figuring out where I want to go, but
You got time?
yeah, I've got a little bit of time.
So let's ask this question. Let's go post-college. What do you see yourself doing at, like, age 25?
Wow.
No pressure.
Yeah. I really hope to work with a more like local, not a huge city, but like a medium-sized city. In a regional theater there. Just someplace like the Warehouse Theater where I can do stuff that pushes the envelope a little bit, but also focus on classical text because I think that has so much power.
Would you ever consider writing an edgy play yourself?
I have tried writing. When I was younger, I used to really, really be into writing, and my parents always told me that's what I was going to do. And
They've been wrong before.
Yeah.
That's right.
And I think I realized that I really like reading a whole lot more than writing.
All right.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yes, I feel the same way. I try and write sometimes. Like, ew, this is horrible. Give me a book.
I've got permanent writer's block.
It's intimidating looking at a blank page, trying to put stuff on it. I get that.
I got writer's disinterest. It's more than a block. So yeah, materials. Why should more people, more of your peers and people your age, be involved in the theater? Do you think?
I think more people should get involved because there's so many different aspects of the theater that there's not just acting, there's directing. If you like being bossy and you think you have a good opinion of things, try that.
There you go.
Or if you're into fashion, then you can express so much of that through costume design. Or if you're into music, there's sound design. There are endless amounts of things that you can do. Even if you're into boxing or karate, stage fighting is a huge, huge thing.
Ooh, okay. So
Dude, there you go. There's your in to the theater. Right?
What is stage fighting, and how do I do that?
Yeah.
I've taken a few classes in it, and it's one of my favorite parts of theater that in so many plays, there are at least like one altercation, and so they usually bring in like a fight scene choreographer.
That's interesting.
Yeah, to choreograph that and make sure that everything's safe. And there's so many different aspects that you can do.
Yeah.
With weapons and just punching and like everything can tie into.
And like when you took the class, what did you do? Like hit each other with swords? Which sounds like a good time. By the way.
We didn't get all the way to swords, but I'm hoping one day I'll be able to get there. We worked a lot with different kinds of punches that you can do, and then with slaps and stuff like that, you have to learn how to nap well, which is basically like a on your thigh that will make it sound
To
like
make
you
the
hit
sound.
somebody.
Yes.
There's so many different things that you can fit into it, though. Dialogue.
Because the last thing you want is for the audience to know, like, oh, that was fake.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You want them to all go,
Yeah, you want them to
wow, somebody just got slapped for real, right?
So why wouldn't you just slap them for real? You'd be all right.
That'd be a little bit dangerous.
Jarring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Might not work super well.
It'd be fine. It's not a big of a deal.
I don't know.
Not if I was the slapper.
I don't
You'd
know
be done.
what you do for like a death scene then. Would you actually stab them? What's the
Oh, that might be a little.
She called you out.
That might be a little much.
Yeah,
but
it might be a little
Take it
extreme.
but the slap, I think we could power through. The stab, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe one of those fake plastic knives where the blade retracts, like the little kids at home.
Remind me not to join your theater troupe.
Ooh, we're gully. my theater troupe. It's like pro wrestling time.
That's right.
They really let them hit each other to an extent there. That actually sounds really interesting. And is that a lucrative subset of theater people? Like if you're a professional stage fighter, is that a good living?
I mean, there are choreographers for that they work pretty well. And then there are people who are like stunt
Yes,
people.
stunt people.
Yeah, I know a girl who's working to get her certificate in that. She worked over the summer on getting her license to do motorcycle stunts.
Whoa.
Yeah, so that's pretty crazy. So there's definitely a calling for that not many people are in that field, but yeah.
That I think would be terribly scary. Motorcycle stunt?
No, thank you. Yeah. Some people probably don't get paid enough. They're like the teachers of the film industry. Well, okay, we're probably gonna have to wrap up in a minute, but why don't we ask you this? Can you plug your upcoming show? Is that something that's open to the public?
Well, tomorrow night, I know this is a bit last minute.
That's okay.
Tomorrow night, I am at the Fine Arts Center. We are doing some scenes from Shakespeare's Twelfth Night.
Nice.
So if you want to drop by and come see that, tickets are $5 to help the department, and I'm really excited about it.
Very cool.
Okay,
Very
do you have
cool.
anything further down the road that maybe by the time we get this out, they could attend? Anything else scheduled?
Gosh, not yet, but
Okay.
I am looking for stuff, so...
Oh, yeah.
Are you reapplying for Fine Arts Center for next year?
Well, next year I'll attend the Governor's School.
Oh, that's right, Governor's
Yeah.
School. Okay, so when do you start that?
Next school year, yeah.
That's really cool.
I'll move in.
That is awesome. And if somebody wanted you to come audition for their play, is there a way to reach you?
Absolutely. You can email me at eludke2@gmail.com. Let me know with those job offers.
There we go. Perfect. And on that
Nice.
note, Effie, thank you so much. That was a home run.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Effie, so much for being here. That was fabulous. And thanks to listeners for spending time with us today. Definitely hit that subscribe button and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Splain_yourself to get all the latest news and updates. Until next time, act natural and always be ready to splain yourself.
Yeah!